Get ready to uncover groundbreaking ideas, discover the hidden challenges, and explore the untapped potential of marketing in the digital age. This is FairPlay with Arun Kumar, the podcast that takes you on a journey into the impact of data and technology in marketing. Here's Arun.
I'm super excited today for a special edition of FairPlay because my guest is a leader who embodies the future of marketing. He's a trailblazer. He continues to inspire and transform the global marketing landscape. Please join me in welcoming Raja Rajamannar, who is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard. If you don't already know him, he's been instrumental in elevating the brand to unprecedented heights, remember priceless, making it a beacon of innovation and inclusivity. Also, if you haven't already done so, please read his groundbreaking work, his best-selling book, Quantum Marketing, which has redefined the frontiers of our industry. Raja, welcome to FairPlay.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
Absolutely delighted that you could spend some time with us. And, I've been wanting to have a conversation with you about quantum marketing ever since I read the book. So I'm going to dive straight into the book. And I think that it would be really interesting for people to understand the fifth paradigm. I know you explained this in the book really well, and I love the other four, but I thought that it would be really a good place to start if we talk about what is quantum marketing and the fifth paradigm.
When I look at the evolution of marketing, each time there are a couple of significant technological breakthroughs or some significant cultural shifts that happen in the society, marketing has to reinvent itself. We have gone through 3 paradigm shifts, and right now we are in the 4th paradigm. What we are going to face in the imminent future is as many as 24 different powerful technologies that are coming our way. The combination of these 24 technologies, together with some of the cultural changes that are happening, together with the data deluge that we are going to witness, marketing is not going to be the same. It is going to go through an unprecedented level of disruption. And we have to recognize that the old theories, old strategies, and old frameworks that we have been practicing till now are not going to work in this 5th paradigm. And this 5th paradigm is not some few years ahead. We are actually in the cusp between the 4th and the 5th paradigms. And the way you navigate this 5th paradigm is to really reimagine how we do marketing. And that new way of doing marketing is what I call as quantum marketing. So if you just take the analogy of physics, classical physics with all the Newtonian laws and laws of gravity and laws of electricity and magnetism, all those really stood the test of time and they were fantastic. But when humanity started discovering outer space and able to peer into that, or look inside atomic particles, classical physics just could not explain how these work. So a new form of physics came about called quantum physics. And today, a lot of what we do, whether it is telecoms or satellites or nuclear explosions, call it whatever, everything is based on quantum physics as opposed to classical physics. In the same way, in the world of marketing, classical marketing got us till where we are. But it will not take us to where we need to go to, and that's where you need quantum marketing.
And in quantum marketing, you make it progress, and you talk about how we have to reset the mission of marketing itself. And you talk about building the brand, protecting reputation, fueling the business, so on and so forth. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I think you allude to this even in the book, which is there's this general feeling that CMOs are under stress, under pressure. There is this constant question mark over whether you produce value or not. And the more I speak to them, there's the feeling that there isn't a true appreciation of what marketing can bring to the table. Some people have predicted that CMOs won't exist anymore. Their titles keep changing, etc. When you look at that mission of marketing, what do you think marketers need to do in order to make themselves relevant again? And make sure that their CEOs and CFOs kind of understand what they bring to the table?
So I think it is not an exaggeration to say that marketing in general and CMOs in particular are in an existential threat. An overwhelming 70% of the CEOs who were surveyed in various surveys, actually, they expressed having zero confidence in their CMOs or in their marketing teams to be driving profitable growth. That is a disaster. If you don't have the confidence of the CEO, that's a recipe for disaster on the one hand. And number two, typically what I found, having spent 50% of my career managing P&Ls and the other 50% managing marketing, when I was managing P&Ls, I would ask my marketing heads, so what exactly is our ROI? Why am I giving you these tens of millions of dollars? What am I getting in return for the business? Typically, you get the looks of a deer caught in headlights from the marketing folks. And they're giving you some marketing fluff. Okay, oh, the brand disposition has gone up, the ratings have gone up, etc. But I don't care as a P&L owner. I'm trying to say, what is it doing to my bottom line or top line? How is it changing the business? So the marketers have consistently been not really in touch with the language of the CEO and the language of the CFO. They are cocooned in their marketing world, into the marketing jargon and to those concepts. That was one of the reasons why there is an erosion of the confidence amongst the CEOs and the CFOs on marketers. The third one I would say is when CEOs are looking for growth, they're not looking to marketing. Now they're saying, I need a chief growth officer, I need a chief customer officer, or a chief revenue officer. Now take a step back and say, if revenue growth and customers are not with marketing, what else is in marketing? It sort of becomes very watered down and diluted. That problem is there. Now, it's interesting that we are in this juncture of the fifth paradigm, which is going to be heavily, heavily technology-driven. Technology is one of the greatest levelers of the competing field. When you look at some of these technologies, even for example, let's take Gen AI. You don't have to be a company with very deep pockets to be able to use Gen AI. If you, as even a small business, can afford $20 a month of subscription, you have all the tools at your disposal, and you can be as effective as a gigantic multinational company. So there is a democratization that's going to happen, and the level of deployment of these technologies, whether it is for consumer insights or business insights, or whether it is for rapid product development, prototyping and development, or it is in-market testing through simulated test marketing and through synthetic data analysis, or it is about creating your campaigns, or running your channel management programs, or measuring your ROI, a combination of AI, Gen AI, and automation is going to change the field of marketing completely. And no more can a large company sit back and say, I'm big, therefore I get better scale advantage. No, you don't get any more. And what you get, somebody else much smaller than you can get, which means the competition is going to become brutal. And what is going to differentiate a company from another company, which is fighting for the turf, is marketing. It's creativity, it is innovation. Those are the ones which are going to make a huge difference now. So this is the time when marketing is badly needed by companies, but here's the time marketing is enjoying the lowest amount of confidence. So this is the kind of ironical situation that we are in. And what should marketers do? Number one, they have to wake up and realize that there is a problem, as opposed to have their heads in the sand like ostriches. They have to learn to speak the language of marketing. If they don't have hire CFOs under themselves, or have people who understand numbers under them and not feel insecure to give them the exposure to make them talk. If you cannot talk quantitatively, have somebody with you who can talk quantitatively. So together as a team, you can win. That's number two. So you need to have quantitative approach to marketing. You need to connect the dots between marketing actions and business outcomes very clearly. That's very, very critical. Next, you need to evangelize marketing. You need to educate your CEO. You need to educate your CFO. Now, many of the CEOs don't have a deep understanding of what marketing can do and what marketing should be working on. And if you as a marketer probably go and try to tell your CEO, it might be a little uncomfortable for you, or the CEO might not believe because it seems like self-serving. Get people from outside to come and talk to your CEO, other reputed CMOs. Let them come and then share what marketing does in their companies and open the eyes of possibilities for the CEO and other C-suite executives. So there are a bunch of things that these people have to do. And also because marketing people classically have come through the right brain thinking, but technology and data are totally left brain. So the key thing is you need to make sure that your team is well balanced between left brain thinkers and the right brain thinkers and integrators who bring that whole brain thinking to the table. So I think marketers have a lot of work cut out for them right now, and they have to go ahead aggressively doing it. Otherwise, they would have lost the plot and the agenda for good.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because this is one thing which I face with some of the CMOs, which is they then ask the question of, okay, where is creativity in all of this? You're the data guy, you've come and presented all of this about consumers, so on and so forth. Where do I bring creativity into this? On the flip side, the other response is, let's just go straight to retail media because that's the big thing right now. And I can actually get you some kind of data that proves that I put something in front of you and you convert it. But then, as we all know, I mean, when I look at Mastercard itself, Priceless has been a platform for such a long time. It is iconic. It's something that's been built over time. And I suspect that it could not have been built on TikTok over 2 months or, doing a cost per whatever lead kind of campaign, right? And I'm pretty sure, at least for me as a consumer, when I bring Mastercard out, I remember Priceless. It's always there in the back of my mind when I bring it out. How do you balance the brand thinking with a lot of what is getting called performance marketing down the funnel? And then there are people who say the funnel is dead, and yet people keep behaving as if the funnel was still alive. What have you done differently where you feel other marketers need to evolve to?
It is not an either or kind of situation. I see the mission for marketing in any company has 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, you need to build the brand, protect it, nurture it, grow it. Because at the end of the day, even if you were to believe that people are going to buy products and services, they are not. They are merely responding to their emotions and to their feelings, which is what a brand evokes, not a product. So brand building is mighty critical. Performance marketing is good for short term, but it's like running on the treadmill. You're constantly running, you're constantly expending energy. You slow down, you get thrown out. You keep running fast, you don't go any further. You're in the same stationary, stagnant place. Brand is the one which actually gives you the dimensional leap and the unfair competitive advantage. Which brings me to the second point, which is, it's not just about brand building. Because brand building, if you talk to a CEO or a CFO, say that I'm building my brand, their question will be, to what end? Okay, if I'm getting my results, I'm good. Why should I be building and wasting money behind brand building? The key thing is, you have to also deliver performance. So I said the second pillar is being a fuel to the business, be a force multiplier for the business, whether it is from lead generation all the way to renewal of relationship and deepening relationship, broadening relationship. That the entire thing is about enabling and driving the business. That is the second pillar you have to do. Performance marketing is a part of that pillar. Then there's a third bucket, which is equally critical, which is, how am I standing out and establishing a competitive advantage on a sustainable basis? These have to be programmatic. You cannot just say, I launched this advertising campaign, it's a sustainable competitive advantage. In fact, back to the example that you gave, Priceless, it was a brilliant advertising campaign. But after a few years, the novelty of the campaign died down and it stopped differentiating and giving any competitive advantage to Mastercard. So we had to reinvent Priceless without losing the core equity of Priceless. And that we have done by building platforms for a competitive advantage that is sustainable. We call it Priceless.com. We started getting into experiential marketing. We got into multi-sensory marketing. We got into a significant number of areas. Like, Mastercard is now we have got 7 restaurants around the world. We are expanding rapidly with restaurants. We are launching fragrances. We got our sonic branding. We are doing a whole bunch of things which you would otherwise think are crazy. But there is a very methodical approach to tie all these to multi-sensory experiences. So the point is, we are trying to bring Priceless to life as opposed to simply make it an advertising campaign. It becomes a holistic marketing platform. That's how we are going about it, right? So that's the 3 things. Number 1, marketing has to build and protect the brand. They are the brand stewards. Marketing has to enable and fuel business. It has to be a force multiplier for business. And number 3, it has to create platforms and moats around the company that will give you a sustainable competitive advantage. These are the 3 things. So if you just focus on performance marketing, it is a part of the second pillar and only that.
And I think part of this is also because, at least I've seen that in many marketing organizations, the CMO has control over messaging, which is called promotion, but is in some cases kept out of the product generation process, or has no control over pricing or any of the other variables. And it seems like, in effect, you could call that person a chief media or chief advertising officer as opposed to a chief marketing officer, because, many times I feel like the CMOs don't really have that purview, which they're supposed to. At least when I read Kotler, it was all the 4 Ps, and now I mostly see just 1 P. And I think that also leads to this erosion where you're not really thinking about the wider business. You're just thinking about the return that you're getting over the next dollar spent on advertising.
Arun, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, absolutely spot on. Today, the remit of a CMO or of a marketing person has shrunk from 4 Ps to just 1 P. And you're totally right, and I'm completely aligned with that. Now, the key thing is, even so, you can re-establish your overall broader remit if you go with credible ideas that are quantified in terms of business results. I'll give you a simple example. Say at Mastercard, we got a chief product officer also as a different role. Now, can I say that is his role? Let me not worry about it because I'm marketing. Let me focus on what is seen to be within the box of marketing. The answer is no. What I have come to a stage at Mastercard, driving my team along with me, is to say that let the product guys create the product chassis. And let us use those technology-based chassis, have beautiful wrappers around it. We call them passion cards. So we launch, for example, a Leo Messi card in China, or we launch a music card in another country. We call Choose Priceless card in Saudi Arabia, or we have got tons of this UEFA Champions League card in multiple countries. So what we are doing is we are giving beautiful differentiating value propositions, which we call wrappers, around the core product, which product manages. They manage all the technology aspects, technical aspects of it, etc. But then we take that chassis and then we build beautiful vehicles around it, or wrappers around it. And that's what is differentiating quite a lot. And today, that's now become, initially, of course, there was a lot of credibility gap, but we had to earn the credibility. The moment you start demonstrating that these passion cards are really working, now that has become a major avenue for growth for us. So now we are automatically embedded in product development from that point of view. We launched a card for blind people called Touch Card, which is now available in 50 countries, an innovation that came out of marketing, not out of products. And we have taken this and we have rolled it out. It's one of our fastest growing products anywhere in the globe. It is for the sight impaired people. So we took a key insight and we created a value prop, leveraging the core functionalities of an existing card product, but then took it to a different level. So that's what kind of a way we do. We do what we call as asset monetization. So we actually earn revenues from the assets that we create. So what happens is, with the result of which, we are able to show a significant impact on the pricing through the value that we are creating. So if you're a bank and we would have had a particular pricing with you, we are able to enhance the pricing by the value that marketing is actually being able to bring it in a quantified way so that our overall margins are better, and so on and so forth. So it's entirely up to you what you make your remit to be. You can get boxed in and sit in your corner and say, I only have 1 P. And that's unfortunately, that's a reality in many cases. But on the other hand, I have seen examples in multiple companies, not just as Mastercard, where the CMO and the marketing team, they take the initiative, they have the credibility, they have earned the credibility over a period of time, and they're able to expand their remit very, very successfully.
I mean, this almost reminds me of what Apple did in the initial days, right? Because at the end of the day, all Jobs did was he basically took the product, but he also crafted the product basis what he thought the market would accept. He was a great marketer, but he crafted the product, and Wozniak always knew more about the actual product than Jobs ever did. But in the end, that combination worked.
It was a killer app.
Yeah. So let me move to my area of specialization, data, which I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed over what our kind have done over the last 10 to 12 years. You used the word data-deluged, and that is actually the title of my book. Because,
oh, really?
Yes, because I feel like way back in 2008, we made a promise to marketers. A promise to marketers was, we're going to unleash this new way of engaging with customers. We're going to know what they want, what they don't want. We're going to get into these auction-based approaches whereby you're going to be valuing customers differently, yada, yada, yada. Everything, the experience is going to change. People are going to feel happier, etc., etc. And 14, 15 years later, when I look back at my own report card, I feel like we've perverted a lot of those approaches for our own benefit as opposed to really benefiting the relationship between brands and people. And so I'd love your take on the hundreds and thousands and millions of signals that are available today and how you actually harness that to add value for consumers as opposed to what's actually happened in parts of the industry where I don't even know what these signals do anymore. They just seem to be getting passed around and getting monetized, but I don't know whether there's a benefit to the brand and whether there's a benefit to the end consumer. Because one of the things I did was I went to various parties and I asked people, I basically pretended to be just the guy in advertising without telling them what my true role was. And their first reaction was, which brands did you work on? What creatives did you develop, etc.? To other parties, I went and said, I'm the Chief Data and Technology Officer. They asked me, what is that? And I started explaining to them. Their conclusion was, so you're the guy who reads my credit card data and serves an ad. Tell me, what else do you know about me? And so I felt like, okay, this is really bad. No one really likes what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So anyway, I'll stop talking and I'll let you reflect on the boundless amounts of data we have and what many people on my side have done to not necessarily help brands and people.
Right. So in fact, this has been one of my pet peeves. Data, if it is used appropriately and you know what to do with it, it can be a phenomenal tool in the service of the customer, building the relationship, and then in the service of the brand. But if you don't do it in a responsible way, that's where the trouble starts, and that's what has happened. So let's take an example, and I'll give you a personal situation. A few years back, I get a notification from a hospital saying that, dear Raja, we are very sorry to inform you that our data got hacked. And in it are your date of birth, your social security number, your all your health history, your address.
Wow.
Every damn thing is gone in that. But we got you covered. We'll give you 1 year subscription for a credit monitoring service. I was furious. And my question to me to them was, firstly, why did you need all that data from me? Today, you go to any hospital or any doctor, you have to fill those forms, the same stupid form, you have to fill it 3 times or 4 times with the same data, and half the data, 90% of the data, they don't even require. But they hoard the data. Okay, if you're collecting the data, it has to come with the responsibility to protect the data, which you don't. You simply hide behind legalese, which is 40 pages in fine print. Nobody reads them. And then you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm giving you $9.99 for your pain, which doesn't help me. It's very letting. So that's what is breaking the trust between companies and consumers. Number one, big one. Number two, so the first thing I would say is the companies have to do a soul searching and ask, why do I need this damn data? Number one, do I need all of this data? I need, yes, some data I need, but do I need so much of data? Number two, if I'm having so much of data, am I protecting the consumer or not? And how am I doing it? And it has to come with some accountability. That's number two. Then the next one is, while we feel that there is so much of data and regulations like GDPR and California Consumer Protection, all these things are coming in. This is just not even the surface. We're not even scratching the surface of the data deluge, which is, now today, for example, I have got a Procter & Gamble toothbrush, which is connected to the cloud. It tells me which part of my mouth I have brushed properly. Am I applying too much of pressure? Am I leaving any gaps in my teeth, etc.? Right from that moment to connected toilets, connecting weighing scales, connected coffee machines, connected dishwashers, every device in our life is getting connected, which is connected with what? It's putting my data somewhere up in the cloud. It's gathering data and putting it out there. Does anyone know what to do with it? It's good to have data as a hoarder of data, but then what do you do with it? Do you know how to make sense out of it? And we're collecting so much of it. So I'm saying that's a problem where we are in right now. If we were to look at it only as a positive thing, firstly, assuming that you're anonymizing the data completely, so you're not snooping and following consumers and chasing them across various websites and stuff like that. It's a privacy first design if you adopt, number one. Consumers will be more forgiving of you collecting data. Secondly, as a marketer or as a business, you need to know, do I really need this data is essential? And when do I purge the data so I don't have any unnecessary data with me? That's number two. Number three, with the data that I have, what insights that I'm getting? And how is it helping the consumer? Or how is it helping the brand, or both, right? That's something which we have to really be accountable for to our companies and to our own principles. Fourth, with the advent of AI and the speed with which it can read into patterns, that in relatively unrelated databases, the kind of insights we can get to could be truly powerful. And when that is coupled with 5G telecoms, you have got real-time insights. And you're also aware of the customer's context. So you are able to understand the customer's need at that moment in time, and anonymously so. So I don't know it is Arun Kumar, but I know that there is one person whose token number is 12345. And this person is in this context, this person has last bought this or not bought this, etc. So I can serve the most appropriate message to Arun at that point in time, knowing his context and knowing his needs. That's a very powerful tool, both for marketers, but more importantly, from your point of view, you get things which are meaningful and relevant to you, as opposed to a whole bunch of nonsense that is thrown at you and you're put off. I think this is actually a wonderful opportunity if you don't mess it up. And that will be my whole take on data.
There are a couple of things that are closely linked to this. You're the first person that I've seen who's actually publicly voiced this very clearly and explicitly. And it's something that I have to say I've been saying behind closed doors and never so explicitly, which is this whole concept of open marketing. And that is, today when I pick up a phone and I call you, I don't worry about whether you have the same phone as me, because there is a common standard that has been set up. But in the digital world, even though data does not exist without the participation of the subject, aka me or a consumer, the platforms get 100% ownership over it and can actually decide where it gets passed and where it doesn't. And so, if nothing else, I like the fact that you put it out explicitly saying we should have the ability, or people should have the ability to say, I want this data to be able to flow across and not be held hostage. And I feel one of the reasons why the regulations haven't achieved this is because they've not come up with any set of standards, technical standards associated with it. Like in the case of telecom, there is a set of technical standards. You can't, or the FAA, you can't create an aircraft on your own without having certain standards. And my question really is, why is the marketing community, in your opinion, not standing up a little bit more and saying, hey, we need these common standards? Because at the end of the day, I feel like the tech platforms talk on the behalf of marketing, whereas they're not truly marketers.
Therein lies the answer to your question. Marketers are not tech savvy enough to understand what's going on. And I'm not being condescending. I'm just, I'm agonized by it and pained by it. I speak to a number of my peers, and in my voluntary capacity, I serve as the president of the World Federation of Advertisers. And I have this opportunity and privilege of interacting with my peers from across various countries and companies and industries. Even today, ask them, put your hand on your heart and tell me, do you understand what exactly happens in programmatic advertising? Do you know how it works? The answer is no. And programmatic is more than 25 years old. Still, people don't have. So they haven't put the effort to learn those areas. And when you come to the finer aspects of data and data management, because it all seems like a technical mumbo jumbo, there is an inertia even to try and understand it. But that is to our own detriment as marketing community, which is really sad. Now, there are companies, like for example, I'll just give you a Mastercard example, where when I started looking at my organization, when I joined Mastercard more than 10 years back, I said, I need to have a CFO residing within marketing. And this CFO should report to the company CFO and to me. That way, the data produced in marketing has got a lot of credibility and it has a standing. Believability is high. Number one. Number two, I have a chief technology officer residing with the marketing, with a dual reporting. So she sits on my leadership team. She also reports into the chief technology officer of the company, actually the CIO of the company. Now, she brings a whole technological aspect and perspective to me. I've got a chief, what do you call, risk officer. We don't call her a chief risk officer, but she's the head of risk management, where there are so many risks that marketing faces every day that we need somebody to be focusing on it all the time. And so we have a brand discrimination risk, you have brand safety risk, you have data privacy risk, you have data security risk. You've got so many risks as marketers that we deal with. I said, somebody has to do it on a full-time basis. So I got my ex-CFO to be my new head of risk management and so on. So what happens is when you build a robust organization of marketing covering all these areas, then you don't have been an expert in all these. You're surrounding yourself with experts within your own department. I think that's one of the quickest ways for companies to really advance in the right direction. That's where I talk about data, right? As I said, classical marketers have been right-brained. They came up the aspects of creativity, psychology, design, and the sociology, anthropology, and so on. But for them, data analytics, financials, numbers, technology, they're alien, and they don't gravitate towards them. So if you now tell them, why are you using or abusing data? They have no clue of what's happening. Okay, I'm painting a very broad brush, I know. Yep. And that's not entirely 100% representative of all CMOs in the world, but I'm not far from truth. And that's a big issue that we have got today. Otherwise, now, the power of data can be incredible if you were to leverage it appropriately. And you can make it consumer-first data, meaning it's about them. You serve people well, profits will eventually follow. But if you become greedy and start focusing on profits, consumers will reject you at some point. If not, regulations will come and then they will tie you down, as they should.
That's where I think that I'm hoping that the industry does not do with AI what it did with programmatic. I'm hoping AI doesn't become programmatic 2.0, because what's often talked about is everybody talks about the approach of give me more data, allow me enough computing power, I will scale and I'll be able to solve the world's problems. But I personally think that AI's ability to create connections between macro aggregated data sets and the signals that are coming in real time from the market, its ability to make more sense out of multiple samples than taking big universal data sets, its ability to read those signals across disparate, fragmented data sets is what's going to make the difference. And I feel like whatever announcements I see, they're all running towards I put a generative AI on top of a big data lake, etc. And my point is, but you haven't fixed basic things like taxonomy inside. And maybe that's where you should start using AI first. The fact that you can't report back to me accurately on what I spent to a decimal point should be worrying for all of us in this age. We're still doing it manually, but we put generative AI on top of that manually created, system of data, and we're saying we've now got a new way of talking about it. So I'm just really hopeful that maybe, just maybe, there are enough people like you who will focus on the other aspects of AI as opposed to the let's just collect lots and lots and tons of it and do it the same way any of the big tech platforms do.
Yeah, in fact, I can't disagree with you at all. It's absolutely, again, spot on. One concern I have is programmatic remained relatively static for 20 years, and still marketers have not caught up with it completely, or majority, they have not. Now, when I look at AI, it is changing. Even before you learn something, 20 things are coming. There's an overwhelming amount of stuff that is coming. And people are also, I would say, dangerously trusting the engine to think and do for them what they should be actually questioning, right? So the thing is, you have seen examples. It's not just students who are now generating essays using Gen AI and to submit in schools. You got lawyer example where they were actually putting arguments being done by Gen AI, and you got marketers who are actually writing marketing strategies using Gen AI. Now, my point is, firstly, people are misunderstanding Gen AI to be AI in total, which it isn't, and on the one hand. And on the other hand, it can be a dangerous tool which can give you output which looks very authentic and extremely credible. But at the end of the day, we know it's garbage in garbage. Or if you don't know what's happening in the black box, that's a dicey thing. You're sort of abdicating your judgment and your thinking to this algorithm, which is not a smart thing to do. And secondly, you also should realize if everyone else is using the same engines, okay, I'm using Chat 4.0, you're also using Chat 4.0, how am I going to differentiate my output compared to your output? So unless I know what I'm doing and how to leverage these tools and use these tools as tools, it's not going to work. And my concern is this change is happening so rapidly that if people are even struggling to understand what is programmatic in this day and age, I don't know what is in store for us on Gen AI and AI in total. I am worried. Certainly, no. It's not a very happy situation. And now on top of it, you put augmented reality. Now, Apple Vision Pro right now, they have 200,000 devices. But who knows, it might scale pretty quickly over a period of time. Now you have got that new dimension to deal with. Metaverse has gone through the crypto winter kind of a thing. Metaverse winter. Will it come back up? Probably, I think, yes, because it does add a new dimension that you can present, people with immersive experiences. Will it have long-term possibilities? Yes, it'll absolutely be there. And things like, there are so many things which are happening. Blockchains, half the people don't have an understanding what a blockchain is. And if you don't understand it, just stay away from it. But blockchains has got such phenomenal opportunity, whether to have the provenance of or the authenticity of an item or the journey of that item from wherever to wherever. Or it has got opportunities like disintermediating and bringing a level of transparency. And as marketers, we should be using them, particularly if you look at the ad chain. 60% of all advertising dollars go to intermediaries. If I, as an advertiser, is giving $40 40% goes to the publisher. That is disastrous. That's a height of inefficiency. So there are opportunities, but these are not technology-based, which is not very native to many marketers. So we have to hope, but I think we need to really invest in training our teams and also staffing our teams with people who have got that bent of mind, those core competencies, are a quantitative technology-driven mindsets, and bring them to make a difference to your marketing function.
Because I also think, going back to the team that you built inside Mastercard, which had dual lines, one of the things, like when I attended the ANA's AI for Marketers conference, one of the things that came out is the brands who've used it have done it in conjunction with the overall enterprise. They've not done it in isolation. So their best partners were their technology partners. So they would then go and have a conversation with Microsoft as an enterprise. They wouldn't go there and say, I'm going to do this marketing thingy and go speak to this platform and do just for me. Because these technologies now have the ability to connect various parts of the enterprise, which previously may not have existed. So I think that's the other concern I have is if marketing keeps getting shut out of that decision-making and that overall collaborative ecosystem that the C-suite is creating, you're not going to have any influence. And marketing creates 3 times or 30 times the amount of data that any other system inside a company creates.
So true.
They're not on the main table. That worries me that you're framing an AI policy and you don't have the CMO on the table, but half the time the CMO isn't bothered about the AI policy. He or she just wants to be told what to do. And they ask a data geek in their team to follow through. But the good cases that at least I saw in the ANA conference were all people where the CMOs were working with the CTOs or the CIOs. And in fact, in many cases, the marketing teams helped write the policies for the whole company because they were the first people to go up there and say, hey, what I am actually deploying is going to have an impact across the overall enterprise.
Arun, I think, this really calls for you and I writing a book together.
Yes. In many ways, I wish that because there's so many similarities in terms, like when I read quantum marketing, I was like, wait a second, I've written some of this stuff with different words, but the concepts are, while the language is different, the examples might be different. The conclusion is, we need to minimize what is the data we collect. And in fact, data is very deceptive. It seems like a renewable resource, but it needs to be treated like a fossil fuel. Mm-hmm. Because it has the ability to really corrupt and you need to treat it with respect. And because people think it's renewable, oh, I can collect as much of it as I want. I can hoover everything that I want, right? We treat it just like we treat anything else that is renewable, like sunlight. Oh, the sun will come out tomorrow again, so big deal if I lose out on it today. But I think it should be treated like a fossil fuel because it has a huge amount of impact. And I'm also thinking about the amount of carbon we're putting out in the atmosphere, holding data that we don't really need. It sort of reminds me of, and maybe I shouldn't do it because my dad has told me not to refer to it, but I will refer to it one final time. It's a bit like him keeping his 1971 Indian tax records because he was worried that, at some stage the tax guys will come and ask me and I need to keep this sheet in front of me that says I paid my taxes.
Yeah, that's funny. And I can relate to it very well.
Yeah. Well, Raja, I know we're running up on time, but thank you so much for this conversation. Apart from the fact that it was a great podcast, but also I loved spending the time. Really, really loved it.
Thank you. And I think on a serious note, I think I'm saying it very publicly too. Maybe you and I should get together and write a book called Open Marketing.
Absolutely. I can write the technical principles for you and you write the brand principles.
We will divide and conquer. We will do
it. Correct. That way we can manage to your schedules. But yes, I'm very serious. This is my passion point now, which is
awesome.
I want this open ecosystem. And I especially don't want to go to a dinner party again and be told that what I'm doing is creepy or whatever else it is. I want some respect in the next dinner party.
Yes, we'll get that for you. And for the whole lot, not just for you, but for the whole community.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much and thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Raja Rajamannar, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard, and that will do it for this episode. If you like the show, please take a moment to subscribe so you'll get notified when I release new episodes. Also, if you have a moment, I'd love it if you left us a review so that other folks like yourself can learn about the show. And don't forget, my new book, The Data-deluged, Making Marketing Work for Brands and People. It's published by Forbes. It's available wherever books are sold, online and offline. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
This has been FairPlay with Arun Kumar. If you want to uncover the keys to using data wisely and fairly in an ever-changing world, go to arunkumar.com for more insights and resources. FairPlay is a production of Forbes Books.